Hi, this is Mr. Bill. In this video, I want to demonstrate how to use the equation editor in Microsoft Word. So in order to do that, I'll just stay in this Word document that we're in right now, and I will just advance to a new page. So I'll just hit Control Enter. All right, that puts us on a new page. And to use the equation editor, we simply go to the Insert tab and then go over to Equation. Now there are some standard equations in here that you might use, and then you can actually view some more of those, and there's actually more that you can get from office.com, but typically we're creating our own equations that we want to put into a text. We want to put it into a paragraph in a report, such as a physics report or a chemistry report or something like that. All right, so we're just going to click on Insert New Equation, which is what you will do most of the time. All right, to get warmed up here, we'll just start out with a quadratic equation, which goes something like this. And then the next thing is an x squared, which means that we have a superscripted 2. So we're going to go up here to the script selection here in this menu and choose the one that looks like what we want here, which has a character and a superscripted character. So we'll put the X here in this box. We'll put the 2 there. All right, now we're going to move to the next thing. Now the next thing we want is plus BX. All right, but if we keep the cursor where it is, it's going to continue to build things behind that superscripted 2. So we want to get out in front of that. So what we need to do is push the arrow right on the keyboard, and that advances to the next thing. So I can use a plus sign, which is right on my keyboard. Shift plus, and now I want to type BX, and then plus again, and then C, and then equals 0, and there we have the quadratic equation. I can hit enter, or I could just click in the white space outside of that, and there it is. Now I'm using a very large font to make it easy to see, but we could left justify this whole thing by clicking on the box and using the left justify button or Control L to left justify it. All right, now I'm going to left justify again, and I'm going to create an equation that has a little more complexity to it. And one of the things, since I already have a quadratic equation there, if you remember your algebra skills, even if you don't, that's okay. You can still follow along here. I'm going to use the equation that we use to find the roots of a quadratic equation. And that's, oops, I guess I got to start the equation first, right? All right, so I insert equation, and there we go. Now I just start to type x equals, and now I'm going to have a very large fraction with a lengthy numerator and a somewhat not so lengthy denominator. So what I want to do is first is set up the fraction. So I'm going to go up here and choose this kind of a fraction with just a bar between them, and anything can go in those two boxes for the numerator and denominator. We can build that once we get the fraction set up. All right, so let's start with the numerator. Now, what goes in the numerator is a negative b and then a plus minus. And notice that when I hit plus minus, it puts them above and below for us, just like that. And the next thing that I want is a square root, which is called a radical. So we're going to go up here to the radical and choose square root. And then underneath the square root sign, we're going to have a b squared. So the next thing I need is a script so that I can use b and the 2 to make b squared. So we'll select b and squared. And remember that I want to get out in front of that 2 now because I don't want to add anything more to that superscripted 2. So I hit my right arrow and I'm still underneath the radical sign. And then I want a minus 4ac. All right, what goes in the denominator of this fraction, is 2a. There we go. Many algebra students, I believe in Algebra 2, we learned this equation, and it's a very useful one for finding the roots of a quadratic equation. All right, suppose you just want to do something like in physics, for example, we use a for acceleration, but it's not just a regular a. And acceleration, as we learn in physics, is actually a vector. So the A has to be noted either as bold, or we could represent the A a little bit differently. So let's go start another equation again. And I'm going to, rather than type A here, I'm going to start out with something called accent. These are special characters, special ways to represent things. And there's one down here that kind of looks like a character with a funny looking arrow over it. And now I can choose the A there. And that funny looking arrow there is the symbol for a vector, because acceleration is a vector. So A is equal to, and what it's equal to is a, notice that it just lengthened the A, and we know why that is, don't we? We'd have to use the arrow key first. There we go. It's equal to a change in velocity over a change in time. Notice I said over, so the next thing is a fraction. So I'm going to click on fraction and choose fraction there. And I said a change in velocity over change in time. Well, change in physics and in other the sciences, we use the Greek symbol delta. So I can go up here and grab, hit this down arrow here and look for something that looks like a delta. There it is right there. That's a delta, the symbol for delta. All right, so it's the change in velocity over a period of time. Now velocity is also a vector, so I don't want to just type a v. I could use a bold V, but since I'm using the equation editor, I can actually type the actual symbol for a vector and call that v. All right. Now on the bottom, we're going to do a similar thing, only it's just going to be delta t, and there's no vector there; it's just time. And so that is the definition of acceleration. All right, now let's suppose that I wanted to add something to this. I could actually go back into the equation, just arrow until I'm out in front of the last thing I did. Because I could define this further, because a change in velocity is equal to, and then I can draw the fraction again to break this down. And what we have here is v final minus v initial. So I'll use the accented v again. But what I really want is something that's subscripted. So I'm going to choose, let me see, back up here a couple things here. We'll start this over again. There we go. There's my fraction, and in here I'm going to use something subscripted. I want v final minus v initial. All right. So I'm going to pick subscript this time, and I'm going to use right here my accented v. So I'll pick up that and put a v in there and call that v final. All right, now I get out in front of that and use my minus sign, and now I'm going to do the exact same thing for v initial. I need a subscripted variable, so I will use my accent again for a vector quantity, and that will be a v, and the subscripted variable is I. All right. Now, a change in time means the second time minus the first time. So here it's just simply two subscripted variables, t2, get out front, minus, and then t1. Okay. Now, there's a lot of different things that we can do with subscripted variables, superscripted variables, and that kind of thing. I just want to do one more before we close this video, and that is, suppose you wanted to use something in a chemical equation. All right, so I'm going to go to Insert Equation, Insert New Equation, and if I wanted to use something with an accent, here, if I can find something that maybe I could use for a chemical equation, and if not, then I can look somewhere else. I might find something in the script. I might find something in a bracket or an operator or whatever it is. A matrix, I think I already tried the accent. If I wanted something to be superscripted in front of the variable, such as right here. This one, we might have something where we have the atomic weight at the top, and so we might say 214, and the atomic number on the bottom, and then maybe PB for lead, that kind of thing. And you can actually change the font size if you want to. You can right click on that and you can decrease the size if that doesn't look right to you, and so forth. Okay, now there could be a lot more to this chemical equation. You might want an arrow in there. You can always click right back in the formula. As long as it puts the frame around that box, you're right back in there again. And then if your toolbar isn't showing up, you can always click on that design button up there. It brings your toolbar back. All right, so sometimes when you're talking about a chemical reaction, you want one of these arrows right here, something like that. Okay, so hopefully this is enough information to get you started with whatever it is that you need to do with your equation editor. I hope this is helpful. Thanks for watching.